Happy Sunday, everybody. I am very grateful that you could be here today. Okay, now, maybe you are watching this on Sunday, March 12th, or maybe the Ides of March. What are you doing on the 15th? Or maybe it's already St. Patrick's Day in your world. One way or the other, we are going to celebrate St. Patrick's Day, celebrate my Irish heritage, whatever that might be. There's a little bit of confusion about that, but today we're all Irish. So at least today in this shining life, we are all Irish. So we are going to do my version of an Irish soda bread. It's kind of like a biscuit, and it was something that stopped people from starving to death during the potato famine in 1845 to 49, I think is what I looked up. So a little bit of Irish history today that you might not know, and a really delicious Irish soda bread that you can eat even when you're doing keto. So let's do this. Okay, you want to see what I'm doing here? Well, one thing that I'm doing is I am having a cup of coffee, and this morning I'm having a cup of caramel cream coffee. So and it is absolutely delicious. Okay, so let's get started. The very first thing that we're going to do is we're going to take 60 grams of whipping cream. And into that 60 grams of whipping cream, 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar. Now, if you want to use sour cream instead, you could do that, but I would rather save the delicious sour cream for something else where I can really enjoy that taste. And using cream like this, we know, if you're watching what you're buying, that there is no additives in it. Buying sour cream that is just cream and enzymes is a little bit tough to do. So we are making sure that we know what we're putting in our food. So we put the apple cider vinegar into our 60 grams of cream, and we're just going to set that aside so that it has time to go sour. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to do is add 112 grams of almond flour. And I am kind of playing with the idea of using a couple of different kinds of flour in the next little while. Now, I know last week we talked about the possibility of me doing sourdough bread, and I am going to do sourdough bread, but with St. Patrick's Day coming up, this just felt like it needed to be a St. Patrick's Day celebration. And I've got that stuck to my cup. Okay, now, into this almond flour, we're going to add 21 grams of protein whey isolate. Now, if you don't have protein whey isolate and you do have collagen powder, you can use that instead. And then 12 grams of coconut flour. And about half a teaspoon, scant half a teaspoon of salt. I had somebody ask me the other day what scant meant. It means don't fill it right up. Good morning, Mom. And then we are also, if I can find a half teaspoon measure, oh good grief, you would think that I would have one. Usually what I can't find, well, that's a quarter teaspoon, but it'll work if we do it twice. We need half a teaspoon of baking soda, not baking powder, baking soda. Now, way back in the 1700s when they started making this, it was just after a French guy, whose name I don't remember right now, had just discovered carbonate soda. So it's kind of the precursor to our bicarbonate of soda, and don't ask me the science on that because I don't know. Okay, so that's half a teaspoon of baking soda. And in some countries it's still called bicarbonate of soda, but in Canada we call it baking soda. And we are just going to mix all of these dry ingredients together. Now, in Ireland, the wheat that they grew there, and they were known for the wheat that they grew in Ireland, but the wheat was not a good enough quality to make a really good yeast bread. It was very difficult to do. So with the discovery of baking soda, they found that they could make Irish soda bread. And the Irish wheat that wasn't good enough for wheat bread was definitely good enough for Irish soda bread. So they did not use almond flour, just so we're clear, but today we are using almond flour. Okay, so those are our dry ingredients, except for one. Now, usually this isn't a dry ingredient, but today our grated butter. Now, we have 38 grams of grated butter that we're going to add in here. And I grated this and put it in the freezer. And you know something that I was just thinking about this morning? All the years before keto, all of the years now, I'm just keeping this plate in my freezer because I've been using it a lot for grated butter the last little while. All the years that I used to use a pastry cutter to cut butter or lard into something, and I could have just been doing this, and it's so much easier. Now we're going to get this mixed in. Now again, in a perfect world, we would have all of our ingredients refrigerated so the butter stayed a little bit harder. Okay, now we're going to set that aside for a second, and we're going to crack an egg in this bowl and hopefully not get any shells. Look at that. I did it. Good deal. And grab a couple of these. We're going to need them in a minute. Okay, now with a little egg whisk, we're going to whisk this up a little bit. And it's important that you whisk it up a bit because it makes it much easier to incorporate into your dough. Pardon me. Okay, so that is now beat up a little bit, and now that we've got that beat up, we are just going to add it to our sour cream. And I don't know that you'll be able to see this, but our cream is now soured because of the apple cider vinegar that we put in it. And so that, the apple cider vinegar, what makes this work is the same thing that makes baking powder work. So, and they did it sometimes with only 4 ingredients. They would use Irish wheat flour, and they would use, oh, see, there you go. My mind just went blank. So flour, salt, baking soda, and some kind of acid. So vinegar of some kind. And the acid is what activates the baking soda to make it rise. And we'll get this egg all whipped in here. Now this makes it much easier when you add these wet ingredients to the batter. Let's put this up here. Now we'll bring our dry ingredients over here. And I'm just going to make sure that we get all of this. Now, you know, it doesn't look like there's much cream on this spoon, but there could be a gram, maybe 2, I don't know. But what I do know is when you're making small batches, if it's a huge batch, a gram doesn't mean a whole lot. But if it's a small batch and there's only 4 grams of something, there's more in the cream. But it can make a big difference in a small batch. So, and I don't like to waste my ingredients. Okay, there. Now we have that in there. And we're just going to stir this gently and get everything all incorporated. Bring it together as a dough. And the fun with our Irish soda bread has just gotten started. Do you know that the Ides of March used to be, this is not an Irish thing, but it was a celebration of the god Mars in Rome. And then after that, when they decided that they shouldn't be doing that kind of stuff anymore, the Ides of March, the 15th of March, was a celebration if you can believe it, of the day that Julius Caesar was murdered. So he apparently was not very loved. Okay, now we have this all incorporated, and I do not want to get stuff on my hands and under my nails. That's just kind of how I roll. So on with the gloves again. And we get a silicone lined pan. Now you can grease the pan if you like, but silicone is better. We've got enough fat in this recipe, and we are just going to plop the whole thing right on top and just form it. Move that out of the way. Form it into a beautiful little loaf, and just a wee bit of water on our gloves lets us do this. You want to pack it kind of tight, and I will show you why. Okay, now we've got this beautiful little loaf type thing. They used to quite often do this in much bigger batches because it was for a whole family, but they would do it in a cast iron pan or a cast iron saucepan over the fire. A lot of places, a lot of homes didn't have ovens, but they had Irish wheat flour and they had stuff. So this looks like it's ready to go in the oven, but there is one other very important part of the Irish soda bread that makes it Irish. We are going to cut a cross in the top. Now you might think, since this is St. Patrick's Day, now when you make the slice, put your knife in and turn it this way and that way, and now you have this cross on the top of your bread. And there's a reason for this. You put the, and I am not making this up, this is a true story. The Irish people would put this cross on the top of the bread so that when it was in the oven, it would bake the devil out of it. When they were cooking it, they would cook the devil out of it. And it was also a way for them to bless the bread and give thanks for the fact that they had some kind of food on the table. Now, this goes into a 325 degree oven for 25 to 35 minutes. It depends on how tall and how thick. So just take a turkey skewer. Almost everybody has some kind of a turkey skewer. After it's been in there for 25 minutes, give it a jab. When this comes out clean or with a few little crumbs on it, you know that it's done. So let's pop this into a 325 degree oven. And abracadabra, there's our half hour later. Now in my kitchen it was just a little over half an hour. Now we're going to take the knife with the dough on it out of here. Now when it comes out of the oven, set it on a cooling rack, and that's important because you want the bottom to stay crunchy as well. And you have this beautiful Irish soda bread with the devil baked out of it. And we do need to give thanks for what we have. We need to be very grateful that we have food on our table and love in our lives, and that we get to celebrate another St. Patrick's Day. Now this is about 6 servings. So cut it in half and then cut each half in 3. And I don't know what it means if you're the one that gets the stripe. Maybe, I don't know. Let's not go there. But we'll get a clean knife and a cutting board. When was the last time you worried about how much evil there was in the food that you cooked? But that used to be a thing for people. Okay, we'll set this aside because this is cooled quite nicely. And we're just going to cut this in half. Now you can slice this and you can freeze it, or you can just wrap it in a clean kitchen towel and leave it sitting on the cupboard for 3 or 4 days. You don't want to, because there's so much moisture in here, if you want to keep the crisp on the crust, you don't want to be putting it in a plastic bag because the crust will get very soft. So if you like that crisp on the outside, wrap it in a kitchen towel. Now I'm just going to do a slice of this. And look at what we've got. We have this beautiful, beautiful little piece of soda bread, and it really doesn't matter how beautiful it is if it doesn't taste good. So what do you put on soda bread? Well, butter is an obvious choice. And then, you see, I just pushed that back together, and it's still got the cross on the top, so no worries there. Butter, for sure, you can use this with your meal. You can use it after a meal with jam or peanut butter. Well, maybe not peanut butter as much, but every now and again I do have a little bit of peanut butter, I will say. So jam, whatever kind of nut butter you're using, you can put cheese on it, anything that you would use on a biscuit except for honey. Now, one of the favorites in our house when I was a kid was butter and honey on a hot biscuit. Yeah, we don't go there. Don't go there when we're keto. So for today, oh, and you know what I did? I put that in the oven, and what we should have done was brush the top of it with some melted butter, because it helps give it this beautiful shine and makes it a little crispier on top. So let's get this out of the way. And did I get a knife out? No, I did not. So a little bit of butter on here, and whatever else does it for you. Now, I haven't tried it yet, but I am kind of curious about, since I know that one of the things that traditionally was put on soda bread was cheese, if they had any. Would this make a grilled cheese sandwich? And I'm not sure about that, but let's see what it tastes like. The crunch on this, the crumb on it, you can see the crumbs on the counter or on the cutting board. So I will say this. When I think back to many, many moons ago, when I was having soda biscuits or baking powder biscuits, this definitely has a little different texture, a little different mouthfeel. So this is, it has a little bit more of a grainy feel to it, but it is delicious. Hi, Del. So, if you're here for the first time, say hi to me in the chat. If you're here for the umpteenth time, say hi to me in the chat. If you don't know what you're going to make for St. Patrick's Day, you might want to think about adding this to your menu, because it really doesn't matter what you make for St. Patrick's Day. You can definitely incorporate Irish soda bread with it. That is absolutely lovely. Now, this time of year, at least in Canada, the weather is hot, the weather is cold, it's all over the place. And we've just come through a whole winter with no sun exposure to our skin. So, if you're feeling a little drugged down, if you're a little more tired than you usually are, if you feel like you're catching viruses more than you usually do, make sure that you are taking your vitamin D3. That's important. Vitamin D3, a lot of people don't know this. Vitamin D3 is not a vitamin, it's a hormone. And it's something that your body produces when you have skin exposure to the sun. Sun exposure on your skin? I don't know. However you want to say that. It has to be to a large area of skin. If you go outside with long sleeves on and long pants on and a hat on and you've got gloves on and you're gardening, your body is not making vitamin D3 or vitamin D of any kind. You have to have your skin exposed to the sun. So keep that in mind coming up. But for right now, where we still It is minus 20 where I live today in Canada. And so there is definitely no way that anybody's going outside with exposed skin, at least not on purpose. So the only thing that we can do to get that vitamin D is to be taking our vitamin D3. Now, talk to your herbalist, talk to your naturopathic doctor to decide how much vitamin D is right for you. That's definitely not something that I would advise anyone on. I take what is enough for me. And another, just a little tidbit that I want to let you know. If you check your blood sugar, even if you're not type 2, and I am not anymore, but I do still check my blood sugar. And I knew a couple of days ago that my body was fighting off something. So when I was talking to my husband, I said, I'm just going to check my blood sugar, and I've been checking it regularly, and every morning it's 4.2, 4.4, 4.7, whatever it is. And I said, I know, because of the way I'm feeling, I had a sinus headache, and I said, I know my blood sugar is going to be up this morning. And it was 5.7. So that was my body's way of telling me that it was working really hard to fight off whatever invader was giving me this sinus headache. So that's something to remember. That's another way that you can check in with your body just to make sure that it's working hard and working right. And if you get a high blood sugar reading, higher than you're used to, don't freak out about it, because maybe it's just your body working in other areas. We'll worry about the blood sugar later, but right now we need to take care of this invader, and this is definitely the height of cold and flu season. I've talked to all kinds of people who have been dealing with one kind of a bug or another. So take your vitamin D. Reach out to someone that you love, that you haven't spoken to for a while. Someone who's a shut-in, maybe. Someone who just needs to hear the smile in your voice. So phone them, do a video chat, go and see them, give them a hug. One way or the other, it will not only make their day brighter, it will make your day brighter too. And if you want to make my day brighter, click on like, click on subscribe, click on the bell, do all of the things so that you and I can hang out here together every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. Mountain. I would really appreciate that. And I am now going to go and figure out what it is that I'm going to put on this Irish soda bread. So thank you so much for joining me today. Please do your very best to be the best version of yourself this week. No one can ask more of you than that.